In a world where everyone is so obsessed with editing their images, choosing the perfect angles, and carefully selecting every word to appear perfect in the eyes of others, there is a disturbing but undeniable truth. The greatest attraction comes not from what we show, but from what we once hid. Not from the perfect makeup, not from the spotlight when we play the part we think others want to see, but from the moment we let go, we let ourselves appear, raw, unprotected, vulnerable maybe, but absolutely real. So what really makes a woman irreplaceable? It's not her eye-catching looks, her clever words, or her ability to please someone. It's something much harder to explain, an energy that doesn't need to be shown, but is always there, a presence that makes others feel seen, connected, touched by something so real they've never even named it. Carl Jung, the founder of modern understanding of depth psychology, once said, "We are not attracted to perfection, but to what truly touches the forgotten part of our soul." We forget the person who always said nice things, but we cannot forget the person who made us feel like we were in touch with the most real thing in ourselves. That is the first paradox we need to face. In the effort to become the ideal, many people lose what makes them irreplaceable. They trade authenticity for popularity, but what they gain is only a glimpse. What they lose is the opportunity to truly connect. So what if what makes a woman most memorable is not her ability to please, but her courage to be true? What if what makes her unforgettable is not her effort to be loved, but her refusal to compromise herself just to be accepted? This story is not for those who are trying to fit in. It is for those who have felt like they are too much, too deep, too sensitive, too strong, too independent, to what and thought it was something they needed to fix. But it is the part of you that they have been forced to hide, and that part is what makes you who no one wants to lose. Together we will explore not the 7 steps to becoming someone else, but the 7 parts that have always been within you. The parts that you have hidden away to be loved, but that when released will make you irreplaceable. And the journey, as Jung pointed out, is not about achieving an archetype, but about returning to your wholeness. So if you are ready to let go of the mask you were taught to wear as a child, ready to let go of the expectation that you must always fit in, then this journey is for you. Not to be perfect, but to make you real, so real that no one can forget. She is not someone who always stands out in a crowd. She does not need to speak loudly, does not need to show off. But when she is present, the atmosphere changes, not because she wants to attract attention, but because her serenity makes others feel something very real, very hard to look away. The woman that no one wants to lose is not someone who tries to be irreplaceable. She does not seek to please everyone. She does not play the role of ideal girl in someone's eyes. She does not care about being chosen by anyone, and that is why she is always remembered, always appreciated, because she does not operate from the need to be recognized, but from a deeper value, a clear awareness of herself. What makes her different is not her appearance, but her energy, an energy that cannot be faked. It is the stillness from within, the unavoidably gaze, the unobtrusive but attractive presence. She doesn't need to say, "I am worthy." People feel it in the way she walks, the way she chooses her words, the way she knows when to be quiet and when to speak up. Every gesture suggests this is a person who knows who she is and doesn't need anyone to define it for her. She doesn't live to be kept. She lives to not leave herself. And that's why people who have touched her space, even for a short time, feel something is missing when she is no longer there. not because she tries to leave a mark, but because she is a mark. Someone once said, "She is the person you don't pay much attention to at first, but when you leave, you realize you missed something you can't find again." That's her. No frills, no easy reading, no easy to understand. But she is the one who makes others want to stay longer, to understand more, to enter her world, not out of curiosity, but because they feel safe, they feel seen, they feel more real around her. Carl Jung said, "We do not become human by imagining light, but by perceiving darkness." This woman understands that. She does not strive to be a perfect model. She does not suppress her darkness to become lovable. She embraces it, lives with it, and turns it into depth. People are drawn to her not because of her sparkle, but because that light has depth, forged from the parts she has overcome. She may not be the first person you notice, but she will be the last person you forget. Not because she tries, but because no one else is like her. No one else dares to be present in all her depth, without fear of being seen. She's not easy to describe in conventional terms. She doesn't conform. She doesn't try to be a type. She's just herself, unapologetically, uncompromisingly. And it's that unpredictability, uncategorization, that makes her so incredibly compelling. Because in a world full of carefully edited versions, people who dare to be authentic are rare, and rare, always something no one wants to lose. From a young age, we are taught to be good, to be gentle, to be tolerant, to know how to please others. Those teachings, which seem harmless at first, secretly sow the seeds of something dangerous, the feeling that our true selves are not good enough, that in order to be loved, to be kept, we must sacrifice a part of ourselves, reduce our strong ego, hide our sensitivity, blur our individuality, and then little by little we trade our authenticity for acceptance. The woman no one wants to lose has gone through that same journey. She also lived according to the formulas for being loved. She also thought that she had to be gentler, less emotional, more predictable in order to be kept. But then at one point, she understood something that turned her entire inner world upside down. Cuteness can make others like her, but only honesty can make others stick with her. She realized that there is nothing more exhausting than trying to be the version of herself that others expected of her. And there is nothing more liberating than being true to yourself, even when it is not easy to accept. This is not rebellion, nor is it defiance. It is an awakening. She began to choose what made her feel at peace, not what made others feel comfortable. She began to say what she thought, express what she felt, and no longer apologize for it. She stopped fitting herself into the box that others had drawn for her. She chose to break out of the box and create her true form. Carl Jung called this process individuation, the journey of individuation, where we stop living according to social roles and begin to integrate the disjointed parts of ourselves to become whole. This woman did not deny her gentle side, but she also did not deny her fierce side, her unruly side, her skeptical side, her deeply sensitive side. She no longer chooses a part that society approves of, then drowns out the rest. She blends, she lets all versions of herself coexist. And from there, she walks with a completely different energy, freedom. Freedom because there is no need to hide. Freedom because there is no need to be perfect. She no longer seeks love as a salvation, but as a resonance. She does not need someone to make up for the missing part, because now, no part of her is forgotten. What is remarkable is this freedom does not make her distant or indifferent. On the contrary, It is the letting go of the need for perfection that makes her more approachable, more accessible, because everyone feels that in front of them is not a role, but a real person. No more restraint, no more trying too hard. There is only a woman walking with the serenity of someone who knows her worth, and no longer needs to prove it. She doesn't try to fit in. She chooses to live large, full, whole. In a world that promotes artificial neatness, it's rare to find someone who dares to live without being polished to please, and rare, always something that others desire to keep. We are often taught how to shine, how to be bright, positive, strong, but few teach us how to enter the dark corners of ourselves, the places that contain our hurt, our fear, our anger, and the emotions we are told to suppress. And because of that, we grow up with an illusion that in order to be loved, we must hide our vulnerable, our complex, our uncontrollable parts. The woman no one wants to lose does not run away from that dark side. She does not deny it, does not see it as something to be suppressed. On the contrary, she understands that only when we are brave enough to look directly at it can we truly become whole people. Because, as Carl Jung said, until you make your unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it destiny. Her darkness is not a weakness. It is a place of unhealed memories, repressed desires, and silenced pain. But instead of burying them deeper, she chose to face them, and little by little, she turned the darkness into wisdom, turned the wounds into maps, turned the things that once made her ashamed into the stuff of strength. She wasn't afraid to say that she had hurt. She wasn't afraid to admit that there were times when she was weak, confused, or even lost, because she understood that the truth doesn't make us small. Only denying the truth keeps us from growing. What made her different was her courage to not put a fake shade on everything. She didn't try to always be positive. She didn't brush off her sadness with a fake smile. She felt every emotion, letting it flow, not running away from it. It was her refusal to run from the pain that gave her a deeper understanding of herself and of others. In a world where strong emotions are labeled too much and complexity is labeled troublesome, she is someone who doesn't apologize for her depth. And the truth is, you can't take your eyes off someone who dares to be that honest. She doesn't try to be strong. She doesn't force herself to prove that she's okay. Instead, she lets herself be a person with enough sadness, joy, anger, love. She accepts the contradictions, accepts that there are days when she doesn't want to be strong and doesn't need to be. Her peace doesn't come from always being strong, but from the courage to be weak at the right time. And that's what's most attractive. Because no one wants to stand next to an emotionless statue forever. People only truly bond with someone who makes them feel allowed to be themselves, even when they're hurt, even when they're broken. That woman is where emotions rest. A mirror that reflects the truth without judgment. There was a stillness in her that belonged to someone who had been angry, broken, and fallen, and then stood up again, not with pride, but with understanding. She didn't need anyone to fix her. She didn't look for anyone to fill her up. She chose to look at every part of herself, the beautiful and the messy, and say, I am still me, and I am still worthy. It was a beauty that didn't strike at first sight, but it was a beauty that lived long in memory. A beauty that wasn't made of smooth things, but of the cracks where the light really got in. Not everyone who walks into a room turns heads. Not everyone who sits quietly makes an impression. But the woman no one wants to lose does so, not by making a fuss, but by her own unshakable stillness. Her appeal does not come from trying to be charming. It is not something that is practiced or decorated. It is a kind of inimitable charisma, a very clear sense that she knows who she is, and does not need anyone else to affirm it for her. This woman does not seek admiring glances to feel worthy. She does not need applause. She does not need recognition to feel secure. Not because she is arrogant, but because she has a stability that has been nurtured over time, a confidence that does not come from the outside, but from her ability to stand in her own solitude and remain unshaken. Carl Jung once said, "Stability comes not from never falling, but from knowing that even if you fall, you can always get back up on your own 2 feet." She is the embodiment of that. She is not afraid of failure, not afraid of loss, not afraid of starting over, because she knows that the only thing she can never lose is the person inside that she has spent her whole journey understanding, accepting, and loving. This inner integrity does not separate her from the world, but makes her touch the world more truly. She does not need anyone to make her feel complete, and that is what attracts others. Because when faced with someone who does not need you, you will have a choice. Either leave or stay by yourself. No games, no tactics, no defenses. People are attracted to her not because she appears elusive, but because she does not set the trap of need. She does not beg for affection, nor does it come as a reward. Her love is not based on lack. It is a gift given from wholeness. There is a peace when you are with her, a rare feeling that says, "I don't have to try to be someone else to be accepted by her," because she is not looking for someone perfect. She is looking for someone real, someone who dares to be present, someone who dares to be honest with the messy parts of themselves, just like she did with herself. She does not intentionally create distance, but she also does not let anyone in easily, not because she builds walls, but because she knows the peace inside her is too precious to give to someone who does not know how to keep it. And when she opens her heart, it is not because she lacks, but because she chooses. And the love given from that choice always has weight. She does not impress with flowery words, does not fill the void with noise. Her presence is enough to make others calm down, look at themselves, and that's what makes her so irresistible. She's not a place to escape to, but a place to return to. Not because she's perfect, but because she's real. Not because she makes others feel bigger than themselves, but because she makes them feel like themselves. In a society where many people are still trying to be seen, this woman doesn't try to stand out. But she's always remembered, not because she outshines anyone else, but because she is herself, fully and unapologetically. Love, in the imagination of many, is a filling. It is the feeling that someone makes up for the missing parts in you, makes you less lonely, less empty, less lost. But the woman no one wants to lose does not love that way. She does not love to be complete. She loves from a place of completeness. That difference seems blurred, but it is the boundary between a fragile relationship and an irreplaceable connection. When she gives love, it does not come from a fear of loss or a desire to be filled. It does not carry pressure, no strings attached, no burden to hold someone back. It is simply a flow, natural, sincere, and unconditional. This woman does not see love as salvation. She does not expect someone to come and make her enough, nor does she wait to be chosen to feel valuable. On the contrary, she knows very well she herself is a world rich enough, deep enough, beautiful enough, that she does not need to seek confirmation from the outside. Carl Jung once talked about the harmony between the anima and the animus, the the female and male principles that exist in every human being. She is the one who reconciles those two principles herself. She does not wait for anyone to come and balance. She has learned to become her own support. She has learned to tolerate the weak without losing the strong. She knows how to listen to her intuition, but does not give up her reason. And so, she does not enter love as someone who needs to be saved, but as a companion. For her, a relationship is not a place to escape loneliness, but a place to share fullness. No one has to carry the burden of making someone else happy. No one has to become a support to the point of losing themselves. She believes that love is not about clinging, but about going together. No holding on, no possessing, no controlling. There is only parallel freedom, two people standing next to each other, not because they need it, but because they really want it. Her freedom in love does not come from coldness. On the contrary, it is born from a heart that has learned to love without attachment. She loves deeply, but does not cling. She opens her heart, but does not lose her boundaries. And what makes her unforgettable is when she chooses to love someone, it does not come from habit or lack, but from a conscious decision made by someone who understands her own worth very well. Others are not with her because she makes them feel the need to stay, but because when they are with her, they feel themselves most clearly. No need to force, no need to play a role, no need to become someone better, because her presence does not create pressure to prove anything, but creates space for people to truly be themselves. And perhaps that is why people do not want to lose her, because when someone doesn't need you to feel complete, but still chooses to stay with you, it makes you realize this connection is a gift, not an obligation, not a trade-off. Simply two souls who are complete, who have found each other, and have decided to move forward together, not because they need each other, but because they freely choose each other. In a world where love often takes the form of possession, this woman is a reminder. True love doesn't bind you, it sets you free. It doesn't make you afraid of losing, it makes you grateful for having it. There is a kind of power that is very quiet, not loud, not needing to be shown, but that makes everyone who has witnessed it feel respected. It is the ability to master your own emotions, not by suppressing them, not by pretending not to feel anything, but by understanding each emotion that passes through, recognizing it, talking to it, and then deciding, should I let it control me or not? The woman no one wants to lose is not the one who has never been angry, never been hurt, never fallen into a panic, but she is the one who has learned one thing. Emotions are not the enemy, but if we do not understand them, we become our own puppets. She does not let emotions guide all her decisions. She listens to them, and then makes choices from a place of awareness. Carl Jung once said, "Much of what we call fate is actually the result of not knowing ourselves." This woman stopped to look inside, to understand why something makes her sad, why a certain type of person easily hurts her, why a certain situation keeps repeating itself in her life. She doesn't blame the circumstances, she looks for the root cause, and that is what has made her gradually become the true master of her life. No longer reacting by inertia, no longer falling into the cycle of old relationships, unhealed wounds, outbursts of anger and regret. Instead she chooses, sometimes, she chooses to be silent instead of arguing. Sometimes she chooses to leave instead of holding on. And sometimes she chooses to forgive not because others deserve it, but because she deserves to be relieved. This woman is not easily drawn into emotional games. She doesn't react the way others expect. She doesn't let anyone have the power to make her lose control, but that doesn't make her cold or distant. On the contrary, she still lives very emotionally, but those emotions no longer control her. She feels, but she doesn't drown. She hurts, but she doesn't panic. She loves, but she doesn't lose herself. This is the kind of woman who is not easily manipulated, not because she is on guard against everything, but because she knows her inner self too well for someone to lead her against her values. She knows when it's affection and when it's dependence. She knows the difference between true connection and attachment out of fear of loss. Her emotional autonomy doesn't make others feel at a distance. On the contrary, it creates a safe zone. People trust her because she's not impulsive, because she doesn't react childishly, because when she's angry, she doesn't hurt. When she's sad, she doesn't destroy. And when she loves, she does it with her full presence, but also with clear boundaries. In a society full of stimulation, where people react more than think, where emotions are easily exaggerated and abused, this woman is like a silence. She does not rush to answer, does not rush to choose people, does not rush to believe anything, just because of temporary emotions. And it is this calmness that makes others always want to stay, because being with her, people feel stable, not because everything goes smoothly, but because she does not lose herself in the turmoil. Her greatest charm lies in this. She does not need to control anyone to feel safe, because her safety does not lie in the behavior of others, but in understanding herself. When a woman knows her boundaries, knows how to listen to her heart without abandoning her reason, knows how to love selectively without becoming closed, she becomes a place where others not only want to be attached, but also learn to make peace with their own emotions. Because sometimes, not everyone who passes through our lives leaves behind promises, but there are people who, just by the way they manage their own emotions, teach us how to master our lives without saying a word. And that woman is such a person. Not everyone carries the kind of energy that silences a room, not because they talk loudly, walk boldly, or impress with their appearance, but because their presence suggests something deeper. A very clear feeling, someone is really there, not absent-minded, not pretending, not playing social games, just being there, fully and truly. This is the woman no one wants to lose. When she walks into a place, the atmosphere changes, not because she deliberately shines, but because she doesn't hide herself. No one feels pressured to perform, but no one feels comfortable either. Her presence is like a mirror. You can't help but look at yourself, not with judgment, but with awareness. She doesn't do much, but everything she does has a reason. She doesn't say much, but every word carries weight. She doesn't need to take up other people's space to feel like she has a place. She just needs to stand still. That's enough. Carl Jung once said, "Real change in others comes not from reasoning, but from the presence of a changed person." And she Moss, this woman, is living proof of that. She doesn't try to fix anyone. She doesn't try to change anyone. But by the way she lives, by the truth in her eyes, the calmness in her choices, and the clarity in her every step, she makes others want to live more authentically. She doesn't convince anyone with words, but she makes others believe there is another way of living, deeper, calmer, more correct. And it is completely possible to choose. She doesn't need to manipulate other people's emotions to keep anyone, nor does she try to be a model that someone can easily love. She lives as someone who doesn't need to be understood immediately, and that is what makes others crave to understand her. There is a big difference between someone who attracts attention and someone who leaves a presence. The first is remembered, the second is remembered. She is not the type of person who makes people crazy and then quickly forgets. She is one of those people who, once they have passed, leave a mark, not on the surface, but deep inside. Her presence does not make others feel small. On the contrary, it awakens a part of them that has been dormant, the deep, the real, the part that has never been fully lived. She does not take energy from others to stand out. She gives energy back by her complete presence. The strange thing is, she has no intention of making a mark. She does not live to leave an impression, but the honesty with which she exists, the steadiness with which she faces life, and the sincerity with which she connects, all combine to create a presence that is irreplaceable, unreplicable, indelible. And what makes her truly special is that she doesn't need others to see her worth in order to feel her worth. But because of that, others see it more clearly than ever, not through the spotlight, but through the way she creates her own light, gentle, persistent, and never fading. She is not the center of attention, but she is the epicenter, where people touch something real, where people not only see her, but see themselves more clearly. And once they have been in the space where she exists, they will carry that echo with them for a long time, as a reminder that there was once someone who lived so sincerely, and so no one really wants to lose her. Not because she is a dream, but because she is a reality, rare, brave, and irreplaceable. In the end, the woman no one wants to lose is not the result of a strategy, not a model created from books about how to be the best version of yourself. She does not live to impress. She does not act to be remembered. She does not love to possess anyone. But because she does not try to be anything, she becomes everything that others cannot find in anyone else. She does not enter anyone's life like a storm. She does not stir things up to force someone to pay attention. She comes as a silence, softly, naturally. But when she leaves, if that happens, people begin to realize there is a part of the space that has changed since she was there, a part of soft light, a part of peace, a part of something that is not easy to name, but very real. Carl Jung once said, "Man is not enlightened by imagining light, but by making darkness conscious." She is the embodiment of that, not because she is always bright, but because she has stepped into her own darkness and chosen to stay long enough to understand it, to love it, and then to step out without losing any part of herself. That is what makes her light different. It is not blinding. It is not ostentatious, but it is warm and real. She does not live to be held by anyone. She does not seek to become a beautiful memory in someone's memory, but it is the way she loves, slowly, fully, without lies, that makes others remember her as an irreplaceable feeling, not just a shadow, but an experience. A time to see someone who dares to live, to love, to exist without compromise. Her appeal comes not from what is said, but from what is unsaid, from the way she is silent when necessary, from the gaze that does not avoid, from the way she walks in this world without shrinking herself just to be accepted. She doesn't try to be the ideal woman, but she is someone that when others meet her, they can't see her as normal. Because in a society busy chasing after images, she is proof of a different way of living, living deeply, living consciously, living without compromising oneself to fit in with anyone. She is a living expression of what we all secretly crave, the truth. Not the embellished truth, but the naked truth, beautiful enough because it doesn't need makeup, strong enough because it doesn't need anyone to acknowledge it. And perhaps the biggest paradox lies here. She doesn't live to be someone no one wants to lose. But that's why no one can easily let her go. Not because she makes others addicted to her, but because being with her, people can be themselves, no acting, no defense, no need to play a role. In her there is a liberation, not an escape from life. It is to escape the masks that we thought were necessary to be loved. She did not teach others how to live by theory. She simply was herself, and that was enough to make others start questioning their own lives. And that is the legacy she left behind, not an image, but a feeling. Not an overwhelming presence, but a presence so subtle that once experienced, no one wants to lose it again. Because the rarest thing in this world is not beauty, but truth. And she is living proof of that. This is not the end, nor is it the climax. It is just a moment when we stop, breathe slower, and realize what we want to become has never been a perfect copy of the standards out there, but ourselves, true, whole, complete. Like her, the woman no one wants to lose, not because she tried, but because she dared.